We are about to get situated here and embark on a really cool event this afternoon. And I want to jump right into it because we only have a short time together. But I first want to welcome you back to the 2023 Ohio Family Engagement Leadership Summit. My name is Tom Capretta. I'm a researcher and project coordinator here at the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center. And on behalf of our center, I hope that you all enjoyed the inspiring keynote address from Dr. Debbie Pusher this morning. And I hope you all had a great morning learning together. We come back together at this moment to recenter ourselves and refocus on what matters most, students. You might have noticed that student voice has been a key theme of our summit, and a commitment to learning from students remains an integral part of our work here at the center. Colleagues and I are grateful for the opportunity to work on occasion with the Ohio Association of Student Leaders, and we're even more grateful for the opportunity to hear from some of those leaders today. For over 70 years, the Ohio Association of Student Leaders has dedicated itself to helping Ohio's middle and high school students identify and develop their leadership capacity to make positive change in their schools and communities. Today, we'll be having a conversation with a few of these young leaders about their candid views on family-school partnerships, including what they find valuable in current practice and what they might suggest shaking up. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. So to get started today, we're going to start off by just sharing our name, where we're coming to today, what school we're in, and then I'd love if our esteemed panelists here could tell me what they think is important about the relationship between families, their family, and their school. So Landon, I'm wondering if you could get us started this morning.
Hi. Yes, I'd love to. My name is Landon Fulkerson, and I'm a junior at Westerville Central High School. Are we just doing introductions to start?
Go ahead. Tell us, too, what do you think is important about your family's relationship with your school?
Well, awesome. My family is really awesome, and I have a lot of great support in this house. But one of the biggest points I think that is important for me and has been important in my education was I've been the first point of contact. From about in the middle school to high school, it shifted from when teachers needed something or when I needed to do something. It shifted from that contact going through my parents to that contact going through me. And that's obviously an adjustment, but it instills responsibility, and it makes it easier for the student to understand that they're going to have to be the one who's figuring things out, and they're going to have to be the one who is writing things down, remembering, I have a test on Friday, I have to study, but also having that parent contact just in case, I wasn't in class today, at least my teacher sent my parents an email, or I forgot to write something down, or I didn't have a pencil, or something happens. That's kind of a good parent contact relationship with your faculty and teachers, but the student being the first part of that, and being someone that they're going to have to figure it out one way or another, but their parents are there to help them out with it. Their folks are.
Thanks, Landon. And I think we can all appreciate that. And that's something we take very seriously. The role of the student changes over time, and you've got a lot on your plate between these two places. So appreciate you centering that for us. I'm wondering if, Nabia, you'd be here to introduce yourself, tell us where you come from, and answer that same question for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name's Nabiha Ilkakhor. I go to Westerville South High School. And just along the lines of what Landon said, I completely agree. I think that as we move from elementary to middle school to high school, the level of transparency between schools and families are much more effective, which I appreciate a lot. especially in regards to homework, and it helps students become more independent as they are growing. And I think that our Westerville district does a really great job with that.
Thank you. Good to see you today. Hi, Connor. I hope you're doing well today. I'm wondering if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you view the relationship between your school and family.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Connor Morrison. I'm a junior at Olentangy Orange High School. And I think the most important part about these family-school relationships is communication. I think that whether it's through the administration and the parents wanting something and maybe not being on the same page, or teachers to students to parents all communicating, when there isn't communication, I think that can create some tension in all of those relationships that can really negatively affect students' learning opportunities.
Thank you so much. That's a great point, and I think we'll come back to that a little bit today. And finally, Lucy, I'm wondering if you could let us know where you're coming from and what you think about this relationship between homes and schools.
Hi, my name is Lucy Calamari. I'm a junior at New Albany High School. I think that family involvement can be really important in how students are motivated, what their goals are, and how their academic performance can be. So at my school, I know that my parents are getting multiple emails a week from the school about opportunities, how to help their child, and then my teachers will send out emails about what we've done in class that week. And I think that my parents are really interested about what I'm doing, and that they really appreciate when the school is able to communicate about our lives, because as we do get older, they're not always involved in that so much. And maybe if they're not hearing from me, I think that they can really appreciate hearing the communication from the school itself.
Thank you so much. And that gives us some good insight into some practice that can help students develop that independence and autonomy, while also making sure we're on the same page about it. And I heard a couple of things come out of this early conversation here. First of all, we're talking about the student role a little bit between home and school. We heard about this messenger role and kind of trying to tie both worlds together. We heard about transparency. We heard about communication a lot, and how communication is important to maybe keep things good or build towards a trusting relationship, as well as for supporting motivation and goals and opportunities for students here. So this is all very good, and we're off to a good start. I'm wondering, though, you all are in between the home and school a little bit, right? The school sees you as a student. Your parents or guardians see you as their baby, their child, and you have to kind of navigate both those spaces. I'm wondering kind of what that looks like between the school and between the home, and what each does well. So we're going to take a moment here to focus first on what do schools do that really help you in this space between home and school. And I'm going to bounce it over to Connor first. I'm wondering, if you take a look at what your school does to manage this relationship between home and school, what do you think's working?
I think one thing that maybe not the school itself is doing, but teachers do, I think the best teachers create comfortable environments within their classroom. And I think that those comfortable environments really change how a student learns. When you have a teacher that, you feel comfortable having just a normal conversation with about everyday things like sports, it kind of makes you excited to go to that class and to get to learn. And then also the relationship between other students as well. Obviously, just having one or two friends in each class that you can look forward to seeing in that class can also, again, kind of get you excited to go to that class and excited to learn. Kind of not something that you exactly think about, but it's one of those things that your brain kind of tricks you into doing.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, I'd love to just follow up with you for 1 second, because you said something really cool that I think we should dig into for a second. You mentioned that one thing you think is really important is that teachers kind of strive to create this comfortable environment. Do you find that if you feel more comfortable with a teacher in a specific class, that maybe your family also feels a little more comfortable in that space as well?
Absolutely. I think that when I feel comfortable about a teacher or I like the way that they teach something or I just like them as a person, I'll go home and maybe tell a story or something about that teacher to my parents, and that kind of gets them a lot more comfortable with them. It allows them to know that they're teaching me well and that they're having a positive impact on me. So I think that's something that's super important.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to stick on this topic of schools and what schools are kind of doing well in this space, or how students feel like schools are doing well. I'm going to turn to Landon now, and I'm wondering, in your school, what are they doing well to maintain this relationship that helps you out?
Well, I think one thing that really helps the school be a part of the student's development and not just the student's education is, and I've had the opportunity to talk about this a few other times, and I really believe it. If a school can build a culture of being proud to be there and being happy to help others and meet new people and make friends with other people, making connections not only just with adults in the building, but also, like you said, with other students, Connor. Obviously, not every student is going to connect with every single teacher. There's going to be a teacher that students don't like. There's going to be a teacher, who I just can't talk to that guy. He's intimidating. I just don't like him. But if everybody's willing to make those connections and everybody tries, then everybody will find somebody, I believe. And I think that trickles down when it's a culture in the building. The students see the teachers doing that, then the students are going to also do that. And so I think, sometimes a student might not want to talk to their parents about something, or they might just want to talk to somebody who's outside, their home, and they need to have a relationship somewhere in the school building that's dependable. Someone who they know, I can always go talk to him. I can always go ask her about this. They will always at least listen to me. I think that that's critically important. And I think that that helps students feel supported and students be better students.
Absolutely. I'm wondering, so you're talking about these connections, the culture in the school, and when you see it from like the top, it makes its kind of way down into the way you do business. I'm wondering, as we think about this, the connections at school, how does the connections that you're making at school with other adults help you to also make connections at your home and your community?
I think it's teachers and faculty setting good examples for students. I think a lot of students, when I was a little baby freshman walking into high school for the first time, and I looked around and I saw, two teachers who were both in the same hallway, and one of them was an English teacher, one of them was an art teacher, but they had this really funny joking relationship and this long-standing joke that they were nemesis. And everyone was like, oh, that's funny. I see two teachers who don't necessarily see each other every day. They don't necessarily work together, who've made a relationship and who are not just cordial with each other, but friends, and they laugh with each other and they joke with each other. And I see, oh, that is what people do here. And that's what I should try to do here. That's the nonverbal example setting that students see, and that stays with them in one way or another, I think.
That's really cool. I appreciate that point. Thanks for the follow-up. So I mentioned that the interesting thing about this, students in between school and home, kind of feeling the pressure of both those places, but also the benefits of both those places. I'm wondering, as I turn to Nabia now, about, let's pivot to home. What is happening at home that makes you feel supported in the partnership between home and school? How does your family engage around the school and your learning that makes you feel good and helps you out?
Well, this all ties back to my identity. My family and I are immigrants and refugees in this country. And so from a young age, I was always an advocate for low income communities, as I lived in one, and I continue to live in one now. And I think that my parents at home have done a great job of instilling the fact that when I do get a seat at the table and I bring these ideas to the table, it's important to recognize and understand that there are people whose voices aren't heard back at the table, but also instilling in the fact that if the table isn't already there, I'm supposed to build that table for those students and for myself as well, which has been super helpful because it has allowed me to get on panels such as this one and collaborate with such incredible leaders from across Ohio, be a part of different organizations like the Ohio Department of Education and Ohio Association of Student Leaders.
Wow, thank you. That's really powerful. And wow is what stands out to me. It seems like you might have learned not only some good dispositions about the world around you, but some sense of how to advocate for yourself from your family, and not just yourself, but for others. So I appreciate you sharing that. And we may come back to that in a second. So keep a pin in that for us. I'm going to turn now, though, quickly to Lucy on the same point. I'm wondering, what does your family do that makes you feel really supported, engaging in your school and education?
Parents, I'm very lucky that I've always lived with my mom and my dad, and they've always been big proponents of education. My dad is from just outside of the Bronx. He was lucky enough that he got a full scholarship to a school in Manhattan, so education has always been really important because it sort of got him out of a situation where he might have had a completely different life. But he's always been a hard worker and always been super smart and driven in school, and he's really passed that on to me and my sister. So I would say that at dinner, my parents encourage us to talk about our days when we do get to all sit down together, and they ask us about what we're learning, what we're interested in, if how these classes make us feel, how our teachers are helping us. And I just really enjoy telling my parents stories about, oh, my Spanish teacher who went on 17 tangents today, and we really didn't get much done, but she's really funny, and we're already planning an end of school year party with her. And just, I really enjoy being able to tell my parents about everything that I'm doing at school because they do find education so important. And I just really appreciate that they've always been very supportive, always willing to help me with my homework, and just always really been there for me, whether it's at sporting events, coming to school meetings for us. And I just really appreciate how much they've done for us and how much they value education, because it is one of my core values, and I'm very lucky to be receiving an education.
Thank you so much for sharing. And just to draw out a couple of things you said, I really heard you say that you had some attitudes instilled with you that you carry into school every day. And what I want to stop and pause here as we think about, the things that have been shared so far is that both Lucy and Nabia have shared that their families have instilled such powerful life lessons, such powerful skills in them, advocating for themselves, having positive attitudes and great work ethics. And if we're not stopping as educators to understand this family background, understand the lessons that have been instilled and the knowledge that these families are sharing with their children, we're not going to be building from the strongest foundation possible that we could. So I think it's so important to zero in on what these two young ladies have shared with us today and see how we're drawing that out in our classrooms. Now, here's a fun part. We're going to do a round robin. We got about 10 minutes left together. So we're going to get all of you in here on this one. You've all told me what's working well, what you really like. Now you're going to tell me what we need to shake up, okay? What's going on between home and school is not always working. Some of you even drew out some examples of what can happen when it goes wrong. So I'm wondering if you guys can take a second to think about what you might change between the relationship between home and school and how you see yourself in that, okay? And I'm going to go back over here, and we'll start with Landon getting us started on this question. Landon, we're going to come back to you in just a second. Try turn your camera off for me real quick. I'll come back to you. It's the miracle of Zoom. Still comes with some pitfalls. I'm going to turn real quick to Connor before we check in with Landon again. Remember, we're talking about what would you change and what does that look like for you?
I think when I think of things that can change within what we currently have as far as the education system, two things come to mind. One, I was at a meeting with some people from the Department of Education last week, and we were talking about attendance. Something that was brought up is how do we get students to come into schools more often? I think that's something that needs to be changed, is finding a way to get these students to be excited to come into school, because that has a lot of positive effects on how they learn. Just going into school with a good attitude will allow them to just learn so much better, just have a way better experience throughout high school and maybe middle school, even college. So I think that that's something that's really important, is getting them to be excited to come in to learn. And then also something that, as I've grown older, has been a bit more of a problem is getting a lot of, not overloaded, but getting a lot of work, and then also having a lot of other responsibilities. Like right now, my swim season just started. I also have a job. So getting a lot of this homework and stuff like that, that I need to find the time to do these things, and then also go to practice, go and work my shift. I think teachers might just be a little bit, being a bit more understanding of that would be super helpful.
That's such a good point. I want to stick with you just for one second, but your point about like understanding that school is not the only thing for kids and that there's a lot going on that is also enriching them, so important. But you brought something up very important that I also believe very strongly, that school needs to be a place that is exciting, that people look forward to going to. I got to ask you, what would make you excited, or what does make you excited about going to school every day?
Well, I think something that gets me excited is just being able to see people, getting to talk to my friends in different classes in the halls. That's something that I look forward to every day when I get to go in. And then also, depending on what your schedule looks like, maybe you have certain classes that you're really interested in, and you're excited to go to those classes specifically and learn more. So I think having having kind of a scope of something that you're really interested in and being able to learn more about that in school, which isn't possible for every single interest ever, but having something that you can go in and learn more about, and then be excited to go in and learn more about it. That's something that definitely gets me excited to get up early in the morning and go to school.
That's super awesome. And I love that. And what I heard you say is that as educators, we need to know our students' interests. And that kind of came out with what Lucy and Nabia were saying earlier. Kids are coming to school with so much knowledge and interest already. We have to build on that. Thank you, Connor. I'm going to bounce over to Lucy and ask you what you would shake up a little bit.
So I would say that sometimes I just wish my teachers were better at communicating with each other and knowing more about what each student has. For example, yesterday I had 4 tests in one day, and I had a field hockey game the night before, and it had just been a super busy week. And I just think that sometimes my parents are seeing that, oh, I'm very overwhelmed with all this work I have. I was out late at this game, and I'm just trying to balance so many things. So sometimes I just wish that my teachers could, do a better job of communicating with each other, having more of a schedule with our tests, because they become very overwhelming very quickly. And a simple solution could have been, I don't know, if they had just talked to each other, planned the curriculum a little differently, maybe students wouldn't be so overwhelmed.
Lucy, I think that's such a fantastic point. And for all the educators in this room right now, I think we can extrapolate that a little further too. As was mentioned earlier, if Lucy's getting overwhelmed from educators not talking to each other and knowing that they're going to put everything on this one day, how might a family feel if they get 8 emails on one day from all the teachers at once, or all this information to sort through? I know that it can be a challenge, especially as students enter high school and have so many different commitments and periods, but I think that this is such a good thing to consider. Are we considering the burden of information that we're putting on to students and families at one time? I'm going to now bounce over to Landon and see if you can share with us this time what you were thinking. Well, Landon, I am really sorry that we can't hear you right now, and I feel ever so bad that we can't get you in there. I know that you have important things to say, so we'll try to get you back on here in a second, but we only have a couple minutes left. And I do want to, Nabia told me she was excited about this question, that she really wanted to talk about this question. So I think I'm going to try to leave the last word here to Nabia. What would you change? And how do you see yourself in there?
Yeah, thank you. I think that students need more transparency regarding mental health, like especially between schools and families. And with the families that like I've worked with my club at my high school, and just different organizations are mainly focused on like low income students, and most of their families are immigrants, and also like they have that language barrier between them, and they don't really understand what mental health is or how their students are struggling. And so the students are going back in between school and home, not really having that support from both sides, and they feel like that they can't reach out to anybody because, again, they feel so stuck in between. So I think understanding that not all students have the same home life, and although one student may have parents that are super supportive of whatever it is or ask them questions constantly, that doesn't happen in every single neighborhood or every single home. And also understanding the resources that they need, because I know that from a very young age, I have 5 other siblings, and so although my parents didn't speak English, I was already teaching my 5 other siblings at home their school, especially during COVID, and there was like a whole huge impact in regards to mental health, and not getting the resources that I needed at that time, nor my siblings needed, was deprecating. And I also saw it in other communities around my school with students that weren't getting the help that they needed. So understanding that every single home isn't going to look the same, and understanding that you are looking at what your demographics in your community are and the resources that they need, maybe organizations like Hope Squad, or just having someone that checks in with neighborhoods. I know with our school, we do a thing called the Big Bus, where our principal, all of our teachers go into low-income communities, and they help kids with their homework, and even helping parents understand what the homework is, especially those who don't speak English.
We appreciate you so much for that perspective, and I heard you draw out a couple things there. Number one, mental health is important, and we need to be considering that. There's a lot of frameworks educators can be considering the mental health and safety of their students through, and to hope that you're all out there considering that. We also heard that you shared your experiences unique, just like many of your classmates' experiences are unique, in that the reason family engagement might be so important is that we have to be kind of thoughtful about how we are making connections home, knowing that not everyone is having the same experience, and knowing that kids are coming with all different types of knowledge and customs and values and beliefs to the school building, and that must be honored. I know that at our center, we do some work around supporting schools and districts to think about how they might strategize, thinking about different types of families, and even knowing then every family is a little different, it gives us special attention to this consideration. So I thank you for centering that for us. We could have this conversation all day, and I would like to. However, these students have been gracious enough to volunteer some of their time on a school day. Lucy, mentioning about having 4 tests yesterday. All these students will have to make up something from their day because of this experience, and I'm sure it's not going to be the most fun thing for them. So I wanted to make sure you all get in here and say thank you to these students for volunteering their times. They're all members of the Ohio Association of Student Leaders, and we just saw some student leaders, all great times. Landon, sorry we didn't get you on that last question, but we'll connect again and be sure to highlight you all. I just want to thank our panelists one more time. And to wrap up this session, you might have just seen me drop a link in the chat. This is the summit survey. Please only take the survey once when it is the last session that you have attended. This is connected to your contact hours. So if that is important to you, please take the survey. We'll now have a 15-minute break or a 14-minute break until the next round of sessions starts. Now, the next sessions, you will have a choice between 1 2-hour session or 2 1-hour sessions. So be careful and when you're going to do those registrations again in the next room. But also remember, everything will be recorded and on the website. So go forth and learn fearlessly. You'll be able to access everything else later too. But one last time, thank you to all you students. I appreciate your time. It was really enjoyable to talk to you.